What is going on, guys? It's your boy BigDyllan. Welcome back to another Destiny video. In today's video we're going to be going over my Warlock. Builds I like to use for certain things, places I like to use them, basically in raids, strikes, nightfalls, all that sort of good stuff. We're going to be going over weapons I like to pair with them, perks I like to have on those weapons, and perks I like to have on my armor pieces also. So, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. The first one we're going to start off with is the Sunsinger. Now, the build you're seeing on screen right now, the weapons as far as all the armor pieces go, and the subclass build. I'll quickly show you the subclass for a couple of seconds, just so you can see the perks I'm actually using. But anyway, this build on screen right now is my general use build. I'll use this for, story missions, heroic strikes. I'll even use this in raids at times if I'm just chilling and I just want to, I'm not really bothered. This is just a general use build. It's a very nice build to play around with, very easy to use. You could also slap self-res on as well if you wasn't so comfortable using radiant skin. If you're one of those players that seems to die every now and then. Especially when it comes to a raid, if you're not comfortable using radiant skin, obviously self-res is a very good option. But like I said, this build in general, a general use. I'll use this pretty much for anything. A couple of things to actually take notice of though. I will not use this build if there is a void burn active or a arc burn active. If any of those burns are active, I will not use this build. I don't see the point of it, as if void burn is on, obviously you're going to be wanting to run your Voidwalker. If arc burn is on, you're going to be wanting to use your Stormcaller. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way now before anybody starts hating at me down in the comments. But yeah, the general gist of this is just a chill build to use. Fatebringer on there, again, I'm much more of a hand cannon person. I absolutely love hand cannons. So like I said, for me, Fatebringer, definitely a good option. You don't really need much, explanation as to why Fatebringer is good. Firefly, definitely one of the best PvE perks out there. Outlaw, being able to get a really quick reload so you can get your next magazine in. And I like to use Field Scout just because I like the increased ammo capacity, and I would use explosive rounds, but for me the perk really annoys me when it messes with the Firefly, and Firefly doesn't proc every now and then. For me, it just makes the weapon inconsistent, and I don't like it. I hate inconsistency in games, and it really bugs me and triggers me, so that's the reason I go for Field Scout, okay? So let's get that out of the way. As far as the shotgun go, the reason I like to use this shotgun is because of the rate of fire. The main perk that makes this shotgun so great is full auto. Now, performance bonus on that as well is also another great plus. I've got hand-led stock down the middle and aggressive ballistics. This is by no means a god roll. I would prefer final round on there in the middle. Hand-led stock is actually pretty decent. It's not too bad. I do have rifle barrel on here as well, but again, the slower reload for PvE is kind of a pain in the backside. So for me, hand-led stock is just better in my opinion. As far as heavy goes, again, Galahorn. This is a very good rocket launcher as far as things go. This is my general, rocket launcher I would use for anything solar burn, and yeah, it's just a general good rocket launcher. There's nothing really else I can say about the weapon. Obviously, it's been notoriously known as one of the most OP weapons in the game in the past until it got nerfed down a little bit to come in line with a few other exotic heavy weapons. But like I said, the build on screen right now, a general use build. So the next subclass we're going to be getting into, or not subclass but build, is going to be my Fusion Grenade Starfire Protocol build. Now we're going to also go ahead and change a few of the weapons on here as well. I'm going to be breaking this down as far as things go. Now, this is a build I would use for Vosik in the Wrath of the Machine raid, and also Axis. Now, this build works very well for boss damage as a whole. So I'm going to quickly show you the subclass real quick. I need to actually put Fusion Grenades on. My bad for that. But as a whole, again, we're still using Viking Funeral and Touch of Flame like this Solar Flare grenade build. On the chest piece, I like to use the increased heavy ammo, so I can actually carry more heavy ammo for swords and all that sort of good stuff. For, sorry, not for swords, but for rockets. If I am using an exotic sword, I would go for special ammo. So that's another thing you're going to be wanting to bear in mind, as increased heavy ammo doesn't actually increase your sword ammo. For some stupid reason, it doesn't work. So again, if you're using a sword, going to be wanting to go for special. If you're using a rocket launcher or a machine gun, definitely put your heavy ammo on. So the weapons I like to pair for this weapon for both of the actual encounters. For the Voidwalker encounter, again, I would use Sleeper Stimulant. Let's just get that out of the picture now, out of the way now. So the Scout Rifle as a whole, the reason I like to use this weapon is because of the perk set. It's like a Fatebringer. Now, it has explosive rounds on, Outlaw, and Firefly. The impact on this thing is absolutely insane. The scopes are slightly lacking. They're all pretty bad. They're all like ranged lenses and rifle scopes, so they are quite tedious and annoying at times. But yeah, it's just a very good scout rifle. The perks make the weapon, again, Firefly, without a doubt one of the best PvE perks you can have on a primary weapon, in my opinion. Explosive rounds on there, just what you're going to get to in a sec, which basically one-shot shanks. Now, one-shotting the shanks at the Axis part of the raid, when you're in Axis phase 1 and 2, being able to one-shot the shanks just makes your life a hell of a lot easier, rather than having to waste 2 bullets in the magazine. So just for ease of use, that's why I like to go with explosive rounds. And it's also good on the Voidwalker encounter as well, when shanks come on, when you actually get them down to a certain percentage of health. Special weapon, the Ex Machina sniper rifle. No real explanation needed as to why I use a sniper. Probably the best PvE sniper in the game. Now again, this is, like I said, there's no real explanation needed, but if I wasn't to use this sniper rifle, if I didn't have this raid sniper rifle, I have a couple of other sniper rifles I do like to use. This LDR is my god roll, may I say it, PvE sniper rifle for boss damage. Now, the scopes are pretty trash as far as things go. I like to use just ambush from there for a little bit more stability, just so I can spam my shots a lot easier. But we've got triple tap, casket mag, and spray and play on this thing. So we get 7 shots in a mag if we can land all of our crits, and spray and play on there as well for the increased reload speed once our magazine is empty, so we can get the next mag in real quick. As far as heavy goes, again, Sleeper Stimulant for Vosik, pretty self-explanatory, but again, switch to Dark Drinker when you get to Axis. That shouldn't really need any explanation as to why you use Dark Drinker on Axis, as it is probably the best weapon for it. But the reason I like to use the Starfire protocol with the fusion grenades is because of the damage that it can deal. For phase 1, where Axis is teleporting, so that's Axis phase 2 should I say, on the first teleport I will snipe him, on the second teleport I will use my super, and on the third one I'll use my Dark Drinker. So that's a hell of a lot of damage I'm actually dealing. I'm actually using something on each damage phase, and on the second one, when we're using our super, not only dealing damage ourselves, we're actually buffing our teammates' damage as well with a Touch of Flame and Viking Funeral. So moving on to the Voidwalker. One thing I do want to quickly say before I get into the Voidwalker is, like I said, Sunsinger is always my go-to subclass for everything, okay? The only ever time I will switch off of Sunsinger is if there is a Void Burn, a Arc Burn modifier active, okay? So say if Void Burn's on, again, Voidwalker is the subclass you're going to be wanting to use. If Arc Burn is on, Stormcaller is what you're going to be wanting to use. If Solar Burn is on, Sunsinger is what you're going to be wanting to use, okay? But if none of those modifiers are active, say if we're just playing something and there's no modifiers, I would always go with Sunsinger, okay? So that's one thing I do want to get out of the way real quick. So taking that into consideration of what I just said, if Void Burn was on, we're going to be wanting to use Void weapons as well as our Void subclass. So I'm going to show you my subclass and break it down real quick. Again, if you want a build breakdown of the subclass that you are seeing on screen right now or any others, please check them out on my channel. There should be plenty of build guides somewhere. Hope you do find them. I'll try and maybe link a few in the description as well. But I always go with the Obsidian Mind. I fell in love with this exotic when it released in the Dark Below, and I pretty much never strayed away from it since. So basically, Nova bombing enemies will give you increased cooldown towards your next Nova bomb. If you actually kill enough enemies with your first Nova bomb, you will actually get a Nova bomb on cooldown instantly. So then you can just shoot another one straight away. So having that chance of being able to have a Nova bomb on cooldown instantly, for me, just makes it a whole lot better. Okay, so if I was running, Voidburn Heroic Strikes, or a Voidburn Nightfall, or Voidburn Prison of Elders, or just something like that with Voidburn on, again, I'm going to be wanting to use a Void Primary, a Void Special, and a Void Heavy. Okay, so general usage, as far as things go, for Void, if Voidburn was on, I don't really care too much about what weapons I am using. If I have a Void Shotgun, I might use that, depending on how I feel. I might want to snipe, so obviously again, I have a Void Snipe Rifle, so I might want to use that. As far as heavies go, again, I just don't care. As long as it's got Voidburn on, I really don't care what I use, as long, like I said, as I am using something with Voidburn. So, getting onto the Stormcaller now, like I said, I only will ever use Stormcaller if Arcburn is on. So for the Heroic Strikes, as I'm actually making this video for this week, the actual modifiers for Heroic Strikes are Arcburn and Specialist, depending on when this video actually goes up, should I say. So again, that's why I'm using Stormcaller. The weapons, again, I'm going to be wanting to prioritize Arcburn. So again, pretty self-explanatory, don't really need to explain the weapons as too much as you would expect. Just as long as they have arc on them, you're going to be dealing more damage with Arcburn modifier being active. So that's pretty much the weapons out the way. Don't really need to explain them too much, as you can pretty much use whatever you want, with Arcburn being on. The subclass, I like to use the Impossible Machines mainly because we get Landfall. Landfall is basically a free Titan Smash, and then you can go, chain and tickle all the enemies with your fingers. That's basically the general gist of it. And then, so we already have Landfall on from the Impossible Machines, so that frees up the spot to use Superconductor. Superconductor doubles your Stormtrance Lightning's chaining capabilities, which is absolutely insane for PvE. Ionic Blink, like I said, is more of a Crucible perk. I never use this in PvE, I just don't see the point in it. You don't need to be teleporting all over the place. I like to use Storm Grenades with Arc Web on the end, so our grenades will chain to other enemies, dealing lightning damage to them. Transcendence on there is the clear option for PvE. I don't see the point in Feedback or Pulse Wave for PvE, I think they are pretty much useless, so Transcendence is always my go-to. Rising Storm on there hits with your Thunderstrike, charge your super ability and melee energy. So for me, definitely the best option for PvE. You could actually use Chain Lightning as well, where your Thunderstrike chains to another nearby enemy, could be pretty useful as well. But for me, Rising Storm just seems to be a little bit better. So like I said, for me, the only other time I like to use Stormcaller is when Arcburn is active. So moving on now that we've got all of the subclasses out of the way, places I like to use them, whether I like to use it in a raid or if because a certain burn is on that week or a certain modifier is active. That's basically the general gist of the builds. Now, the next thing we're going to be getting onto is the perks. Okay, so the perks that I like to use on certain armor pieces. Now this might be a little bit more complicated for some people, but for some, once I explain it, hopefully it will be pretty easy to understand. So the first thing that I'm going to mention is there is a Google Chrome extension that is available for your desktop or laptop, and it's a free extension that you can download, and it is called Destiny Item Manager. By far the best Destiny companion app out there, in my opinion. You can basically transfer, drag and drop all of your loot to the vault. You can transfer and drop it onto any 3 of your characters. You can transfer materials, armor pieces, weapons, everything. You can see the percentage of stat rolls on the weapons and armors and all that sort of good stuff. It's just very good to use, okay? So taking that into consideration, every single armor piece I get, I will always check the stat roll first, okay? So for example, let's take the helmet I have on right now, the Hardened Gale. This is a 98% stat roll helmet of Intellect Discipline, so that's a extremely good stat roll. You know, it goes up to 100%, so having a 98% on there, extremely good, okay? Let's transfer a armor piece from my vault, okay? So I'm going to transfer this one real quick. So this Death Singer's Gaze, this is a 93% stat roll Intellect Discipline, so this is not as good as my Hardened Gale what I have equipped right now. Why is it not letting me compare for some reason? Oh, it's because I'm doing it the wrong way. But anyway, sorry about that, bit of a brain fart. But as you can see, my Hardened Gale helmet right now, I can have 45 Discipline and 64 Intellect. With the Death Singer's Gaze, I can only have 42 Discipline and 63 Intellect. So we're losing out on a couple of points of Intellect and Discipline just if we equip this helmet. Now again, if you're not so bothered about the percentage of stat rolls and all that sort of good stuff, then obviously this doesn't really matter to you. But for me, I always check the stat rolls of my armors when I get them. If it is not a 91% or above, I do not keep it. Okay? Just I wanted to get that out of the way first. So moving on to general perks that I like to have on my helmets, gauntlets, chest pieces, boots, all that sort of good stuff, okay? So moving on to the helmet first, okay? We're going to be looking at perks on helmets and other perks that I like to try and get. So my Hardened Gale helmet that I have equipped right now. Inverse Shadow is an extremely good perk for PvE. Increased super energy gained from killing minions of the darkness. So minions of the darkness is just, PvE enemies. So Cabal, Hive, Fallen, Taken. Killing minions of the darkness is going to grant you bonus super energy, which is extremely good. Obviously, being able to have your super on cooldown more often is always going to be a huge plus. The next perk I have on here is Infusion. Replenish health each time you pick up an orb. Now this perk is more of a, it's good for PvE. It's definitely a perk I always try to look for on my helmets. But again, it is also more useful, should I say, in the Crucible, especially when you are low health and your teammate goes in and say Titan smashes an enemy and they generate an orb of light. Go pick the orb up, and then you're going to be pretty much back at full health. There is actually a better perk than Infusion. If you can get this one, Better Already is actually better than Infusion. Shields start recovery immediately after orb pickup. Basically, this will put you at full health pretty much on the instant. The Infusion one will slowly regenerate your health. It will only bump your health up, and then you'll start your shield regen. Whereas the Better Already, it'll start your shield regen, and then you'll have all your shield, and then your health will be going up at the same time. So I mean, Better Already is definitely better in my opinion. How ironic is that? But yeah, there is a couple of perks that I always do like to look out for. Is another one actually that's extremely good is Ashes to Assets. If you was using your grenades very often, this is more of a Crucible perk. Now, if I'm playing Crucible, I always try and get a helmet with this perk on. Gain bonus super energy on a grenade kill. Obviously, grenades are very strong in the Crucible right now. So, for example, if I was using fusion grenades on my Sunsinger, if I wanted to be full scumbag, I was annoyed with other people sticking me, and I wanted to, punish them back. Say if I stick someone and then I get a kill with that fusion grenade, I'm actually going to get more bonus super energy just from actually killing them with that grenade. So Ashes to Assets, definitely a perk you're going to be wanting to try and get for PvP. Now, there is actual, like I said, second thoughts, gain bonus super energy from special weapon kills and minions of the darkness. I hate perks like this because it requires you to use a certain weapon. So I never go for any of these sort of things where it's a special weapon or a heavy weapon. I don't see the point in having those perks on, in my opinion. Definitely, like I said, always going to be wanting to try and get something like Inverse the Shadow. There is another one as well. I'll try and find it for you if I can. So increased super energy from killing minions of the darkness. There is another one as well, and I think it's gain bonus super energy from non-guardian kills. That's also another extremely good perk that you can also try and watch out for PvE. But anyway, that's pretty much all the perks for the helmets that I'd want to try and get. So moving on to the gauntlets. So as far as gauntlets go, it completely depends on your playstyle. Gauntlets, you have a little bit more of a free choice of sort of what you want to get on them as far as things go. But for example, we'll start off with Sunbreakers. Okay, so for example, I like to have increased grenade throw distance, because the main thing I'm actually going to be doing whilst I'm using Sunsinger is throwing grenades. Increased melee attack speed, in my opinion, I don't really like to have that in PvE. It is quite a lot more usable in the Crucible, but for me, increased grenade throw distance is just always the better option from my general playstyle. You do get other perks as well, like this momentum transfer, like gain bonus melee energy on grenade hits. You could use this, but in my opinion, I just don't really like that. I feel like having the increased grenade throw distance, being able to actually throw your grenade over a greater distance and kill an enemy, or stick a boss so you can buff the damage of all your other enemies if you're using the fusion grenades. It's just a hell of a lot more of a better benefit, in my opinion. You don't have to arc them as much. You don't have to think so much about is a grenade gonna drop off before it even reaches where I'm trying to throw it. So like I said, increased grenade throw distance, definitely one of the best perks as far as gauntlets go, and you can see that as far as all my other ones go as well. As you can see, increased grenade throw distance, increased grenade throw distance, increased grenade throw distance, and this impossible machines have increased melee attack speed, mainly because I can't be bothered to re-roll them, because I was trying for so long. I think I used over 120 glass needles trying to get a roll, so that is why I refuse to re-roll them anymore. Claws of Ahamkara, increased melee attack speed on them just because it's a melee exotic, and I don't even really use them anyway. Ophidian aspects already have increased grenade throw distance on them anyway. So for me, like I said, increased grenade throw distance, definitely a perk I try to get on all of my gauntlets. Very usable in PvE, but mainly for Crucible, it's a really good benefit to have. You don't have to think about so much, like I said, about arcing your grenades over the map. As increased grenade throw distance will just do that for you. As far as reload speeds go, this is where it comes down to your general playstyle. However you like to play, I'm not going to tell you, what weapons to use. This is just in my opinion. I love hand cannons. I have been using hand cannons since the release of Destiny, since year 1 when Fatebringer was a thing, and I pretty much not stopped using them ever since then. I just think hand cannons suit PvE and Crucible very well. Crucible, as far as hand cannons go, are probably the best weapons depending on your skill level. They have the fastest kill time, they have the best, being able to peek shot and pop one round off and get 80, plus damage in one shot is going to be a hell of a lot better than peeking with a pulse rifle and then trying to get all 3 bullets to land. Hand cannons for peek shooting, like I said, just by far the best option for Crucible. So that's why I have hand cannon reload. You may prefer scout rifles, so you'll be wanting scout rifle reload speed. You may be wanting to use shotguns more often, so you want shotgun reload speed. Okay, so like I said, completely depends on your playstyle. Whatever weapons you prefer to use, you will be wanting to try and get the reload speed for that weapon. So for me, for Crucible, I will either use a hand cannon or my pulse rifle, the Ceros PDX-45 that I've been using a hell of a lot recently. So I have one pair of gauntlets which have increased grenade throw distance, increased reload speed of pulse rifles, and then I have another pair which has increased grenade throw distance and increased reload speed with hand cannons. So I can switch in between the two depending on if I'm using a hand cannon or a pulse rifle. But anyway, that's pretty much Gauntlets completely out of the way, so let's move on to some chest pieces. So like I said, for chest pieces, this is a little bit more, there's a hell of a lot more variety when it comes to chest pieces. There's a lot more perks you can worry about, or if you're not really too bothered, like I said, it doesn't really matter. But if you wanted to min-max things to a T, and you wanted perfect rolls and everything, okay, so for example, I'm using a solo burn subclass, I'm using a Sunsinger, okay, so for a chest piece, this is a very, very good chest piece. As far as my general playstyle goes, it has hand cannon ammo and sniper rifle ammo. Obviously I like to use hand cannons all the time. Having the extra sniper ammo on there as well as a choice. You know, if I'm using a shotgun, I'll use the hand cannon ammo. If I'm using a sniper rifle, I'll use a sniper rifle ammo. That's the way I'll decide in between the two of those. And then it also has increased armor when using a solo based subclass. This perk as a whole is absolutely great, okay? If you can have a... Well, actually, I'll show you another example. Say if I'm using Stormcaller. Let's say I am playing Crucible. Obviously, Stormcaller is probably the best subclass to use. So I'll actually put on my Stormcaller setup that I like to use. Where's it gone? Oh no, where's it? It's that one. That one. That one, that one, that one, that one. I think I switched that around. So as you can see, as a whole, I think something needs to be swapped around. Something's not perfectly done here, but we'll just leave it out because I'm not really too bothered about things right now. But as far as things go, like I said, say if I was using my Stormcaller, okay. It's a arc subclass, so my chest piece I have arc armor on the subclass. I also have hand cannon ammo as well. Now the main reason I like hand cannon ammo for Crucible is because hand cannons spawn with very little ammo. In my opinion, that's the one thing I hate about using a hand cannon in a Crucible, is not having enough ammo. When I use a hand cannon, I always run low on ammo. For some stupid reason, I always am running low. Obviously it doesn't really matter then when the special crates start spawning. It's usually just for like the first minute or two of the match, where obviously you spawn with about, I think it's like 30 bullets, maybe sometimes a little bit less, and that to me is just not enough. So yeah, so that's why hand cannon ammo on there for a chest piece. Arc armor again because I'm using a arc subclass. If you can get an increased armor with whatever subclass you may be using, say increased void armor, increased arc armor, increased solar armor, definitely try and get that as a perk in general. Ammo types, so for example this chest piece as well has increased void armor on if I was using a Voidwalker. Like I said, this is a very good chest piece. Again, it has pulse rifle ammo, has shotgun ammo, and it also has increased void armor on. So it all comes down to general playstyle, but there are perks that you want to try and get. Okay, so you're going to be wanting to try and get the armor for whatever subclass you are trying to be using, and then you're going to be wanting to try and get the ammo types for whatever weapons you prefer. So say if I'm using a shotgun in the Crucible, I want shotgun ammo. If I'm using a fusion rifle, I want fusion ammo. So you sort of get, you know, where I'm going with this. And then the primary ammo, obviously you want primary ammo for whichever primary weapon you are using. Although you can only use one at a time, obviously, you know, you'd pick whichever one you wanted. Okay, so that's pretty much the chest pieces out the way. Hopefully I explained that enough. Anyway, let's move on to the boots. So moving on to boots, boots are very easy to spec. Now, one thing I do want to quickly clarify is I have not covered whether you should be using intellect, discipline or strength on any of the armors. That is strictly because it completely depends on whatever build you are trying to achieve. Okay, there is never really a best roll to have on something just because you want it. You know, it all depends on the build. So say if I'm using Stormcaller, I want to use tier 5 intellect, tier 5 strength, just because it suits the subclass for Crucible. Or say if I'm trying to use a Sunsinger, I want tier 5 intellect, tier 5 discipline. It all depends on the builds you are using. You should have multiple armor pieces for certain builds that you want to switch to here and there. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, As far as things go for boots, I always try and prioritize a heavy ammo on my boots. You can get special ammo on your boots as well, but I would always say try and get a special ammo on your chest piece instead, as special ammo does roll with also a primary ammo. So special ammo for chest piece, heavy ammo for boots. That is the easiest way to explain it possible. So again, heavy ammo for boots, special for chest. That is the most simple way I can put it without going in circles and just blabbering on. As far as the last perk goes, Void double down, Solo double down, or Arc double down, it honestly doesn't matter. They're kind of useless. Increase agility for 5 seconds. You know, how often are you going to be getting a double kill? How often does the agility actually make a shit of difference? That's the way I like to look at it. It honestly doesn't make a difference. So the last perk I honestly do not care about. It doesn't matter to me, okay? But yeah, that's pretty much it for the armors as far as things go. Obviously Ghost, Warlock Bond, or should I say Class Item and Artifact, they only matter to get you to a certain stat, okay? That's the Ghosts, Warlock Bonds and Artifacts do not matter what perks you have on them. The only thing you should be bothered about with these 3 items is trying to achieve a tier, 11, 10, 12 build. That's the only thing I care about my artifacts achieving for me, okay? So anyway, that's pretty much it this video. I know it's probably been a hell of a long video so far. Sorry if I went round in circles in any of the sections and segments of the video. Hopefully I explained things well enough to where you can understand them. But yeah, drop a like in the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel for future Destiny content. And yeah, thank you so much for all the support as of recently. It's been actually insane. Welcome to anyone that is new to my channel and watching my videos. It really does mean a lot to me. But yeah guys, have a wonderful rest of your day and peace.